Hatcher was the first museum Triceratops. It went up in 1905 after enough pieces of a similar enough size were identified and collected for a full skeleton to be constructed in the National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C. This Triceratops was named Hatcher after the fossil hunter and was the only exhibited Triceratops for over 20 years. Hatcher was made of 10 individuals, so he had a few proportional problems. His skull was too small, his front legs were different lengths, and his hind feet came from another ceratopsian, one that had less toes than Triceratops. The bones were not treated any better than the Bernissart iguanodon had been, having holes drilled through them and being bolted together. They were in such a state no one wanted to touch them. Apparently in 1996 a visitor was looking at Hatcher when she sneezed and there was a massive bang as the back end of Hatcher's hips fell off. It turned out that Hatcher was suffering terribly from pyrite disease, a fossil-destroying buildup of pyrite that can happen when fossils are not carefully treated and maintained. This prompted the other dinosaurs in Fossil Hall being examined, and they were all in bad shape. Conservators began taking them down in 1998 to be replaced by laser-scanned replicas, and Hatcher was the first. The bones were resized to the correct proportions and mounted in a more accurate posture in 2001. As of 2019, Hatcher has been in the Deep Time exhibit, being fed on by a Tyrannosaurus. Big John, another important Triceratops, was uncovered in South Dakota in 2014. The skeleton was about 60% complete, but the 75% complete skull caught the headlines. It was called Big John after the ranch's owner. The 2.6 meter long skull was the largest ever found for a Triceratops. Hearing about this should have been amazing, but by the time it came to my attention, the story had taken a turn. The fossil collector who had found Big John, Walter Stein, was the founder of Paleo Adventures, a commercial fossil collecting company. The skeleton was displayed in summer of 2021, with the intention of putting it up for auction later that year. With interest in dinosaur fossils growing among multimillionaires and billionaires, museums have been priced out, and scientists are rarely ever let into private collections to examine the fossils, if they are properly cared for and have not crumbled to dust. Big John's size indicated that he would sell for a huge amount, and that he would be lost to science and the public. If you haven't guessed, I hate commercial fossil hunters. All scientific endeavour requires funding, but private ownership of rare and important fossils removes any real value that they have. Many Cretaceous sauropod bones have been found on the Isle of Wight, but in researching them I found very little information. This is because the owners of the land on which these fossils have been found have kept them in private collections. Paleontologists look at photographs showing the fossils and make what determinations they can because they are denied access to what may be new species of British dinosaurs. I also do not understand the motive of keeping these fossils away from scientific examination. It's like owning a unique ancient book written in a language that you can't read. In October 2021, Big John went up for auction, expected to reach about $1.5 million. He eventually sold for $6.6 million, the most expensive non-Tyrannosaurus fossil ever sold at auction at the time. This was blown out of the water by the Stegosaurus apex selling for $44.6 million in mid-2024, the most expensive fossil auctioned ever. Big John's buyer was anonymous, and Stein stated, "I would have felt better about it had it gone to a museum, but hoped that the owner would display it publicly. I would have liked to remind him that he would have felt better and wouldn't have to hope if he had auctioned it off to just museums." Fortunately, this story had a happy ending. The buyer turned out to be Siddhartha Pagidipati, a businessman from Tampa in Florida. He bought Big John with the intention of it being displayed in the Glazer Children's Museum in Tampa as a way of giving something back to the community. During 2022, paleontologists were allowed to examine the skeleton and found a strange lesion on the frill, among other things. Using an electron microscope, it was determined that this mark was made about 6 months before Big John died, and could have been from a tyrannosaur tooth or another Triceratops. This examination would not have been possible in a vast majority of private collections. In May of 2023, Big John was on public display in the museum. So the largest Triceratops in the world is not in some national museum in a domed hall, it's in a 3-story children's museum. And that just seems really sweet to me. This is a taster of my upcoming dinosaur profile on Triceratops. You can find the whole history portion on my Patreon now, available to all paid patrons. You can also sign up for ad-free videos, early access, and Patreon exclusive videos.